When a patient suffers a severe stroke, a localized area of brain tissue loses oxygen and goes dark. For decades, the medical consensus has treated this dark zone as an absolute dead end. Once the neurons die, the tissue is lost. We apply the same rigid threshold to ecology. When an animal population drops below a certain critical mass, biologists classify them as a ghost species, a group that is technically still breathing but statistically doomed to disappear. We even enforce this logic on our own timelines. By the time someone hits standard retirement age, society assumes their major life trajectory is locked in, with no room left for a radical pivot. If you spend any time reading the modern news cycle, you are constantly bombarded by this exact framework. The algorithms prioritize stories of terminal decline, painting a picture of a world crossing thresholds it can never return from. But if we look closely at the hard data published on a single day, May 14, 2026, that consensus of permanent decay starts to fall apart. The evidence shows the point of no return is rarely a scientific absolute. Often it is a psychological construct sold by doom-scrolling. For generations, neurologists operated under a strict biological rule. Adult human brains do not grow new parts. If a stroke wake via a section of your neural network, that pathway is severed for good. Recently, researchers bypassed that rule. They took isolated stem cells and injected directly into the dark, inactive zones of stroke-damaged brains. These stem cells triggered a process called neural remodeling. They physically bridged the dead space by stringing together entirely new communication pathways from scratch. The resulting brain scans lit up. Physical damage from the stroke reversed, and patients regained bodily functions they had previously lost. We tend to think of the brain as a delicate machine that breaks permanently. The data proves it is a highly adaptable system built for profound self-repair. That same capacity for recovery scales up to entire ecosystems. Take the great Indian bustard, a heavy, ground-dwelling bird that biologists considered functionally extinct. They live in the arid dunes of Rajasthan, an incredibly harsh environment, where dwindling numbers and limited resources made natural recovery look statistically impossible. To solve this, conservation teams deployed artificial intelligence to monitor incubation conditions, using algorithmic precision to safely rear fragile chicks. This chart tracks the population of the great Indian bustard over time. You can see a steady flat line until the AI intervention begins. Thanks to that technological support, the bustard population successfully rebounded to a historic milestone of 86 individuals. We see this environmental elasticity corroborated in urban spaces too. Recently, wild bald eagle hatchlings were discovered in a Chicago park for the first time in over a century. These predators bypass their traditional need for untouched wilderness, actively adapting to the noise and infrastructure of a concrete jungle to build a successful nest. Ghost species aren't inevitably doomed. If we provide them with the right technological support or the right spatial runway, entire ecosystems can violently bounce back. This capacity for course correction also applies directly to human willpower. Consider Dawn Zudgistkraft. When her husband survived a severe brain hemorrhage, mirroring the exact kind of neural trauma we looked at earlier, it forced her to challenge the limits of what a person could do with the time they have left. Rather than easing into a quiet retirement, she decided to apply to medical school, at an age when most people assume their professional lives are permanently finished. She completed the rigorous academic and clinical training, earning her doctorate and graduating as a physician at 73 years old. Human timelines, much like the neural networks in our brains, aren't fixed tracks. They are pliable paths capable of dramatic rewiring at any stage. A stroke patient regaining motor control through stem cells, an endangered bird pulling out of a death spiral with AI, and a septuagenarian successfully becoming a medical doctor. These aren't isolated flukes. Whether we are looking at neurology, ecology, or human ambition, all of these complex systems share a built-in trait: elasticity. The assumption of doom relies on the idea that degradation is a one-way street. The hard data shows that assumption is scientifically inaccurate. The point of no return isn't a final dead end where we pack up and go home. It is the exact moment where aggressive, targeted intervention becomes necessary. Because the capacity for recovery is the default setting of the natural world, actionable optimism is the only logical response.